He just did it again. In Argentina's very first game of this World Cup, Lionel Messi scored a hat-trick. 3 goals. On his 200th appearance for his country in his record 6th World Cup, he pulled level with the all-time record for World Cup goals and moved past Pelé for the most goal contributions the tournament has ever seen. Argentina beat Algeria 3-0, and in that moment the whole football world exhaled and agreed on the same thing. The fairy tale is happening. Messi is going to ride off into the sunset with a second World Cup. Let me tell you why that's exactly the moment to be worried, because this is the last one. Messi turns 39 in the middle of this tournament, and after years of cryptic hints and quiet non-answers, it's all but certain this is his final World Cup. He's never stood up and flatly announced it true to form. He's let the silence say it for him, but everyone knows. After this, there's no more Argentina shirt, no more World Cups, no more chances. And after one hat-trick against Algeria, everybody, every channel, every pundit, every fan is already writing the same ending. Messi lifts the trophy. The perfect final chapter. Nobody wants to say the other ending out loud. The one where his last act in that famous shirt isn't lifting a trophy, it's a long silent walk off the pitch beaten in tears for the last time. Here's the uncomfortable truth. A hat-trick against Algeria in the group stage doesn't change. That ending isn't just possible, history says it's still the likely one. Let me show you why. First, understand exactly what's at stake because it's different from anyone else at this tournament. Messi has already done it. In 2022, he won the World Cup. He got his immortality, his moment alongside Maradona. The one trophy that had escaped him his whole career. The hole in his story is already filled. So this time isn't about completing the legacy. It's about the end, the send-off, the final image the world keeps of the greatest player of his generation in international football. He holds Argentina's records for World Cup appearances and World Cup goals. He's a champ. The only thing left to decide is how the story closes. And that's a far more fragile thing than people realize. Because a perfect career doesn't guarantee a perfect goodbye. Ask almost any all-time great how their last tournament ended, and the answer is, usually, in defeat. Look at the greatest names the game has ever produced, and how their final World Cups actually ended. Diego Maradona, Messi's only real rival for the title of Argentina's greatest ever, played his last World Cup in 1994. It ended not with a trophy, but with him thrown out of the tournament in disgrace, sent home after a failed drug test, never to grace one again. That was the final World Cup image of the most gifted Argentine before Messi, Zinedine Zidane, 2006. His last match wasn't just his last World Cup, it was the final game of his entire career. And the world remembers it for one thing. A red card in the final, sent off for a headbutt in extra time, walking past the trophy he'd never lift while France lost on penalties. One of the most beautiful players who ever lived, and his last act on a football pitch was an ejection. The perfect goodbye of Pelé lifting the trophy in 1970 and riding off into legend is the rare exception, not the rule. Far more often, the football gods write a crueler script. The greatest players almost never get the ending they deserve. They get the ending the tournament gives them. And Messi, at 39, defending a title nobody has defended in 60 years, is walking straight into the exact situation where that crueler script writes itself. Now here's the number that should stop the fairy tale talk cold. No team has successfully defended the World Cup since Brazil in 1962. Read that again. 60 plus years. In the entire history of the tournament, only 2 nations have ever retained it, Brazil in 58 and 62, and Italy back in the 1930s. That's it. 2 teams ever. Argentina are trying to become the third. The first in over 6 decades. So when everyone casually predicts Argentina go back-to-back, what they're actually predicting is one of the single rarest achievements in the history of the sport. The fairy tale everyone's treating as the default outcome is statistically the exception and a brutal one. Lightning struck for Messi in 2022. The history of this tournament says it almost never strikes the same team twice. And here's something people forget. This is not the same Argentina that won in Qatar. In 2022, Argentina were hunters. Hungry, underestimated by some, playing with the freedom of a team chasing a dream. They had nothing to lose and a 35-year-old Messi at the absolute peak of what an aging genius can be. In 2026, everything is inverted. Now they're the defender. They carry the weight of a title, the expectation of a nation that has already tasted glory and wants it again, and a captain who is 4 years older and openly being managed minute by minute. The same group of men, but a completely different psychological and physical reality. Hunger is replaced by pressure. Freedom is replaced by the fear of losing what you have. That shift from chasing to protecting has broken more champions than any single opponent ever has. So why is it so hard? Why do champions fall? Let me give you the cracks, and Argentina have all of them. Start with Messi himself. The Messi of 2026 is not the Messi of 2022. He's 38, turning 39 mid-tournament. He's still scoring freely in Major League Soccer, still a genius on the ball, still one of the most dangerous set-piece takers alive. But the explosive pace, the power, the ability to drag a team through 120 minutes on his own legs, that's faded. By most honest accounts, his contribution now is more about presence, vision, and aura than about physically carrying the side. And yes, I know, he just scored a hat trick. But look closer at that night, because it tells the real story. A hat trick against Algeria in a group game is a very different thing from dragging Argentina past Spain or France over 120 minutes in a knockout, with everything on the line and a defense built to stop him. And here's the detail almost everyone skipped. He was taken off before that game even finished. On a record-breaking night against modest opposition, his minutes were still being rationed. That's not a knock on him. It's the reality of where he is at 39. The magic is still there in flashes. The engine to sustain it for 7 knockout games is the question. That matters enormously in a World Cup. This is the longest, most expanded tournament in history. His minutes will have to be carefully managed. He can't play every game flat out. And the cruel irony is that there's a real argument Julian Alvarez or Lautaro Martinez is now Argentina's best, most decisive player, which means the team that needs to win this might need to win it without leaning on Messi the way it once did. A 39-year-old icon you have to protect is not the same weapon as a 35-year-old in his pomp. Second crack. The squad is aging with him. Argentina kept 17 players from the 2022 winning side. 17. That's continuity, yes, but it's also a core that is 4 years older than the day they lifted the trophy. The legs that ran Argentina to glory in Qatar have a lot of miles on them now. Some of the heroes of that night, like Angel Di Maria, have already retired from the national team entirely. The band that made the magic is starting to break up, and in the build-up, Messi, Christian Romero, and others have been managing fitness knocks. A title defense built on an aging, slightly creaking core is a title defense balanced on a knife edge. Third crack. They're the hunted now. In 2022, Argentina could surprise people. In 2026, they're the champions, and everyone saves their best performance for the champions. There's no element of surprise left. Every opponent circles the Argentina game as the one they want to win. Fourth crack. The tournament itself is built to punish them. This is the first 48-team World Cup, the longest, most physically brutal edition ever staged. More teams, more games, more travel, spread across a continent in the heat of an American summer. Whoever lifts the trophy in July will have played more matches, over more weeks, in tougher conditions than any champion in history. So ask yourself, which kind of squad does that favor? A young team full of fresh legs that recover overnight, or the oldest core in the tournament, built around a 39-year-old whose minutes are already being rationed before a ball is even kicked? The format isn't neutral. It's quietly stacked against exactly the type of team Argentina are. And here's the history that should scare you most, because it's happened to teams better than this one. France 2002. Defending world champions, one of the greatest squads ever assembled. They went home in the group stage without scoring a single goal. Spain 2014. Defending champions, arguably the best international side of the modern era. Thrashed early, eliminated before the final group game. Germany 2018. Defending champions, a ruthless machine. Knocked out in the first round, dead last in their group. France, Spain, Germany. 3 reigning world champions, 3 first-round exits. The defending champion curse is not superstition, it's a documented pattern, and Argentina are walking straight into it. And it happens for reasons, not by magic. A 4-year gap is an eternity in football legs age, hunger dulls, and the exact players who peaked last time are a step slower this time. The surprise factor is gone. Opponents have 4 years of film on exactly how you beat them, and there's a quiet complacency that creeps into a group that's already conquered the mountain, the subconscious sense that you've already proven everything. Every one of those forces is pulling on this Argentina side right now, harder than on any team at the tournament. So how does the heartbreak actually happen? Let me walk the realistic path. It almost certainly won't come in the group they've already shown that, taking Algeria apart in the opener. But don't mistake one route for safe. Austria are still to come, and they're the trickiest kind of test. Organized, intense, drilled to press high and suffocate you, dangerous from every set piece, exactly the awkward, disciplined opponent that frustrates a team that wants the ball and the time to use it. And even Jordan, the supposed makeweight, reached a continental final not long ago and will sit deep and dream of an upset. Still, if you're honest, the group was never where this story was going to turn. Argentina will almost certainly march through it. The danger was always waiting deeper in the tournament. Because the real heartbreak comes later, and it's crueler. And look at who's waiting. Spain, fresh off a golden generation of their own, packed with players in their early 20s who run all day. France, with the deepest, fastest squad on the planet and Mbappé in his prime. England, finally with the firepower to match the talent. Brazil always lurk. Every one of these teams shares the exact trait that hurts Argentina most. Youth and legs. Over a 90-minute, sometimes 120-minute knockout game in an American summer, a team built on fresh sprinters has a structural advantage over a team built around a 39-year-old and an aging core. That's not an opinion, it's physics. Picture Argentina topping the group, doing what champions do. Then the knockouts arrive and they run into a younger, fresher, faster side. The game stretches into extra time. A 39-year-old Messi, carefully managed all tournament, is running on empty. The aging legs around him can't get out to close the space. One moment of quality from the other end. Or worse, penalties, the very lottery that went Argentina's way in 2022, going against them this time. And the final image is Messi, hands on his knees, head down, as a younger team celebrates around him. His last act on a World Cup pitch. No fairy tale, just the end. Is that the certain outcome? Number. But is it the most probable one, given his age, the squad's age, the competition, and 60 years of history? Honestly, yes. And almost nobody is willing to say it. So let's sit with what a heartbreak ending would actually mean. First, the perfect chapter stays frozen at 2022. And maybe that's not the tragedy it sounds like. He already got the perfect ending once. Nothing that happens in 2026 can erase that night in Qatar. His immortality is permanent. A failed defense doesn't reopen the GOAT debate. He still has the trophy his rival chased forever. But emotionally, it would sting in a way that's hard to describe, because this is the goodbye. The last time we ever see him in that shirt. And there's a world of difference between a legend choosing to walk away on top and a legend being knocked off it in his final act. The lasting image of a career like Messi's deserves to be glory. A heartbreak ending makes the final memory a defeat, and you don't get to redo a goodbye. And it's not only his story. It's the end of a golden generation's last ride together. The men who delivered Argentina's greatest night, taking the field as a group one final time and falling short. When that door closes, it doesn't reopen. There is no next tournament to make it right. That's why this scenario matters. It's not just a loss. It's the last word on an era. So here's my honest verdict. I think the heartbreak is the more likely outcome. I know that's not what the fairy tale crowd wants to hear, but the evidence points there: his age, the aging core, the brutal competition, and a 60-year curse that has buried better defending champions than this one. The probable ending is not the trophy. It's the long walk off. This is Lionel Messi, the same man who was told he'd never win the big one, who carried the weight of a nation for 15 years, who finally broke the curse at 35 when everyone said the window had closed. If there is one player in history who has made a career out of defying the ending everyone wrote for him, it's this one. So I won't tell you it can't happen. I'll only tell you the odds are stacked, and the fairy tale is far less certain than your timeline is selling it. So I want to hear from you. Be honest. Does Messi's last World Cup end with the trophy raised one final time? Or does it end in heartbreak? And if Argentina fall, who's the team that ends the dream? I'm breaking down a scenario like this for every contender at this World Cup, so if you want the next one, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.